Welcome everyone to Platform IS family, and I am Simranjeet Man, and today I have with me a very special guest, All India Rank for 2023, P K Sidharth Ramkumar. He has secured ranks in UPSC 4 times: 2020, 21, 22, 23. 5 attempts, 4 time ranks. Sidharth, I first of all welcome you to Platform IS. What you have done in the last 5 years is a really great achievement. If I have to ask you, what was the one thing that you did differently from others? Because there are people who fail to secure ranks even after uh, attempting multiple times. But since your second attempt, you have, I think, first you got into reserve list, then rank 189, then rank 121, and now rank 4. Please tell me what was one thing that you did differently. If I have to ask you this.
Like I believe that so I make frames in my mind, like what should be important, what should be considered important. So I think there are three things that are important. So very obvious things, but still I'll just talk about them. So one is simplicity. So they say, like they talk about the ship of Theseus, like wherein the Greek this thing, wherein the whole is more important than the parts. Like we are constantly changing, and every time we are trying to improve. We are trying to improve one part here, one part later. But ultimately, the important thing is that the whole thing, that it should be made simple, and the whole is more important than the parts. Like ultimately, you just have to think about whether you'll get in total.
Yeah.
Like even if one paper goes down, like this time my GS1 went down, but my overall return is like 874.
Okay.
So you shouldn't be worried about any single thing that goes wrong. One day, one paper, one question. So it is more about, somewhere I think it's about simplifying, and somewhere that attitude that even if something falls on the in the way, somehow you have to like get up and then complete it.
It gives you both positivity and Hawkeye this viewpoint of things.
Somewhere like make it simple and make sure that you will, like, whatever has to be done will be done. And somewhere secondly, I think you have to innovate a little. Like innovate in the sense, not needed maybe, but since I am coming from architecture background also, I felt somewhere my paper should stand different. Like when I am writing a paper, when someone is looking at my answer, even though content might be little same, my example should be different, my content, my graph should be different, my structure or my diagrams, the way I present, something should be different. So that also I tried to do. Like in ethics, I used to add thought experiments, for example, not tried so much. So somewhere looking at the question, answer paper, I feel my paper should be remembered a little. Even if my, competence is low, my performance should be higher. That is my basic this thing. And thirdly, I think somewhere, as I said, on that day you have to perform. However good or bad you are, even if you think like you've not completed one paper, you've not completed world history, you've not completed this. End of the day, if that is the day, you have to perform. You shouldn't think that you are underprepared. You shouldn't think that you are this thing. Because I remember for prelims, I was underprepared like second, third, and fourth time. But somehow, like it was like it is the day you have to prepare. You are preparing. You want to clear and get into IAS. So then just perform. It's like that attitude. Like Vivian Richards says, my attitude is like I am the man. That is my attitude. So somewhere I think in civil service also your attitude somewhere should be like you are there to perform. End of the day, perform and then just leave
when
it.
you are entering the exam hall, whatever you have read, just keep in mind that this is what I have today.
Yeah.
And I have to attempt it. I have to give my best, optimize my whatever it is, prelims or mains or interview. Don't think much about what has happened previously.
Correct. Don't compare. Don't think that you are underprepared. Like anyway, it is impossible to have the best knowledge. It is impossible to be the best person. You just have to be the best person on that day.
But at least if you will be relaxed, you will be surprised to know that things that you thought that you don't even remember, you will be able to recall that. You will be able to what you said, innovate.
Absolutely.
And I will come back to it. How do you really what do you really mean when you say innovate?
Innovate in the sense, it's a big word. I'm just saying, like my main strategy was note making. Like when I gave 21, 22, 23 attempts, while trying test series, even though I did give tests, but I was not feeling very confident. So I was not able to give many tests because I felt I was not having enough content. So I felt my strategy relied more on note making and less on answer writing, although I think both are important. So for note making, I felt that if you have good structures, good introductions, good conclusions, in the body also, if a question related to architecture comes, or something like literature comes in this thing, something in history, what should be the introduction? What should be the points that I should hit? In that way, you can innovate. Like let's say even in a history question, you can add graphs, you can add comparison between GDP per capita of India, Britain. Like that can be added in any modern India question. Something even in art and culture, I added one. I mean, many people do it. I'm just saying that I tried something like that. There was an art administrator called Kapila Vatsyayan ma'am. She has a book called Circles and Squares of Indian Art. So I just read the review, like summary, and then some points were there which were common to everything in Indian art. So any question on Indian art, you can quote those points. That's an expert opinion also. That gives some analysis. So in that way, some things which are only mine. So in that way, if I took another book, somebody else can take some other thinker, or even this thinker is not used because that question was not asked. So you prepare for 100, even if you are able to perform 5% of that, it's good enough. Is what I felt.
That is going to give you
a little edge.
No, it is going to give you a good edge. Your rank tells us that.
Like somewhere, I think, like slightly, because everyone's writing the same content, then maybe you never know whether you'll get mark or not. But if your content is good and slightly different, possibility of getting is slightly better, I feel.
Okay. And your marks in anthropology were, I think, this year's highest. And I think in previous 2-3 years also, they will be highest from the last 2-3 years also.
Like I'm not exactly sure. This time I heard, but I'm not exactly sure. But 326 is a very decent score.
No, it is highest score. Why are you so humble every time I ask you a question?
No, I'm not 100% sure whether there's a mark higher than that.
These are great marks.
It is a good mark.
326. But now back to serious things. Anthropology, if we will talk about anthropology in depth. Okay. Why did you choose anthropology?
Okay, so 2019 I graduated in architecture. So 19 I was thinking, what should I do in life? So I thought about urban planning, something like that. Then I came into civil services. Then I thought in civil services also, like I have to quickly clear it. So I knew that I did not have enough time. Like giving 3 attempts also, I was in this journey only because I cleared in the 2020 attempt. After graduation in 19, if I hadn't cleared in 20 attempt, I don't know if I would have persisted. Because too many factors. You have family, this thing. You have to have a job. You can't rely entirely on this thing. So I thought I should take this thing wherein there is enough content. There are enough number of toppers. You can complete it in 3 months.
Okay.
So everything anthro that year, I mean from 2018 onwards, I think it's been scoring really well.
So you didn't have any background of anthropology?
No background in anthropology.
You made a rational choice based on, if I can recall, 3 things. Time for syllabus completion, number of toppers coming from the subject,
availability
and availability of the study material.
Yes, okay. And interest on top of that, very important.
Interest is very important.
Very important.
Okay. After that, what was your approach towards anthropology?
So anthropology, I did study in an institute for 3 months. Then after that, so that attempt, then I studied on my own a lot. Like I think most important thing was like topper notes. Like topper notes and some books like written by, like there was one book by Vivek Basme sir. Like most people read in anthropology. So that book was like very, I mean, it's very simply, I mean, written in a very simple manner. And then in question answer format, very simple book. So that gave me a base. Like I tried to have one reading of the whole syllabus. So that is a small book. You can complete it in like 2 months, one month even. So I had a basic understanding of the content from that book. Then I took some content from toppers, freely available in Telegram, all that.
Toppers copies,
toppers notes. And somewhere I felt, as I said, like you should have your own content. So case studies, I try to add my own a little. So I Googled from JSTOR, you can freely find some research articles, especially in areas where you think content is less.
JSTOR is paid, I think.
But if you log in, you get 100, you can log in for 100 articles for a month or something like that.
Okay.
So 100 is good enough. Okay. Even if you take every single topic, if you get one good article, that's good enough.
Okay.
Then you can log in some other account. You have 2 Gmail accounts, you have 200.
Okay. Very good.
So JSTOR is one. EPW, I mean, EPW articles are also available in JSTOR.
Economics and Political Weekly.
That also is available in JSTOR.
Okay.
Then some like based on the topic, like paper 2 had more dynamic things like tribal studies, caste studies, societal, this thing. wherein I felt updated data is important. For that, I even took this thing from articles from the Hindu or Express or something, and research articles from JSTOR and stuff.
Okay, let me give you a specific topic. If I have to ask what is the contemporary relevance of Purusharth or the Varna system. So, did you research it somewhere?
Yes.
Or did you research it somewhere?
Yes.
So, how did you research it? How did you prepare the...
So, basic Purusharth and all is there in syllabus. So, I've read it in Vivek Basmesar's book. I've read it in some topper notes from Telegram, from the institute thing. Then I will Google it. I wanted to make it a little more like my own thing. So I will Google in JSTOR. If I search Purusharth, I'll have some articles. It takes a little bit of effort, but then one or two good articles will have new thinkers, new opinions, introduction, conclusion, like everything you can get content out of the article. And then something when you are revising, just think about, okay, what contemporary relevance is there? Something of your own analysis, little. Most of it is like thinkers and taken from studies. Little bit of your own also, one or two here you can add.
So you used to prepare introduction and conclusions beforehand?
Beforehand.
You prepared introduction and conclusions beforehand. You prepared case studies. You used toppers notes. So now when you are writing the answer, how did you structure your answer exactly?
So again, like for each area, like let's say it's a question on a particular fossil in archaeology. So if it is a fossil question, like where was it found? When was it found? Who found it? What are the physical characteristics? In physical also cranial characteristics, postcranial, dentition, brain, like all, like a frame would be made. And then what are the cultural characteristics of that fossil? What time frame? At that time, what was the vegetation? What change did what changes happened? Significance in evolution. In that way, there is a what all subheading should I hit that I'll have a frame ready. And according to the fossil, I'll just add the content onto that frame. So the frame is ready, introduction, conclusion is ready. Some case study also, if something new has happened, that is also there.
Contemporary relevance you gave through the case study.
Case study and something new if something is happening. Case study again.
Okay, and what is the role of thinkers in anthropology?
Thinkers very important.
Very important.
Very important. Again, it's a humanities subject. Although there's some science and medicine.
How much means?
Every question I used to quote easily 4 or 5 thinkers.
Where? Means at the starting in the
so
conclusion?
Starting usually was definition by a thinker or etymology.
Okay, you also used to name the thinker.
Name the thinker, the book if I remember. Year no.
Okay.
But thinker almost every time I did. Book if I remembered. Year never.
Okay. After that, when you are writing the points, wherever you can find the relevant thinker, you used to substantiate with this.
Yeah, thinker.
4 or 5 thinkers per.
4 or 5 thinkers easily per question.
Per question 10 marker or 15
10
or
marker
20?
Also, 15 and all more maybe.
Okay. In 20 marker, how many thinkers?
Like 20 marker, my idea is like there will be 4 pages, like at least 5-6 subheadings.
Okay.
It was like every point I needed some substance. I have to substantiate it. So somewhere I'll connect it to a thinker or theory. If not literally every point, like let's say if it's a fossil question and some points are like very factual, like cranial capacity is this much, this is this much. In that maybe not. But then overall for that heading, I'll say according to this thinker, these were the characteristics.
Okay.
And then in criticism, this thinker said this criticism, another thinker said this criticism. According to this theory, this is not entirely true. So wherever possible, thinker theory.
Okay. Did you use flowcharts, diagrams?
Yes.
How much?
Every question, one diagram.
Every question?
Yes.
One diagram.
Because I prepared list of diagrams.
38 questions you...
like literally maybe not, I might not have been able to, but I tried to add in every question.
Okay.
So I don't know literally.
Why I am interrogating you is this. We are trying to decode how a rank 4 gets 326 marks. This is not a child's play. Okay, so I'm just trying to get into the intricacies so that students understand the importance of these things. Saying something that I can do this or do that is very different. But you have done it in your paper. You have got those marks. So that's why I am going into so much depth.
No, sure.
Okay, so when you are talking about diagrams, definitely if let's say you are making 32 diagrams in the paper, those can't be perfect diagrams.
It can't be perfect.
It can't be perfect. So what was your basic strategy? In how many seconds you used to complete your diagram?
Like diagram, like I had a list of diagrams topic wise prepared, even for Anthro, even for GS, everything.
You need to have the focus. Means you prepared the diagrams
separately also.
Separately also.
Separately also.
Means you used to revise them different separate from it.
Separately.
That if this is the question, this is the topic, I will give this diagram.
Yes.
Okay.
Like maybe not one. I would have had like 3-4 diagrams, so that not every diagram can be used in that topic. Like if so, at least one of the 3 maybe you will be able to use.
Okay.
So I had a list of I tried to have 3 diagrams per topic.
Okay. Let's say a question comes that is very dynamic. You have not read about it. Did you innovate any diagram which you made flowcharts?
Like I had like list of 5 to 10 flowcharts which can be made according to the question. Like one leading to another, hub and spoke. Everyone uses hub and spoke.
Just give me one example which you used.
Let's say you know nothing, you have no scope for diagram, no prepared diagram is there. So then, but you know some flow, like chronology or something. So you say you know the event, you know the preceding event and the next event.
Okay.
So then you make one box leading to another box leading to another box.
Okay.
Or let's say something like I have 3-4 examples. Like I in GS, if I take an example, or like even Anthro, I have 2-3 examples. Like something like I remember GS in particular. So let's say Amul is there, Seva is there, and you have the Amul chocolate factory, and then you have the Mundra put. So I'll connect everything, like the whole flow chain of the whole supply chain, like how labor from here, how SHG, plus how food processing, plus how export. Only then the whole thing is complete is what I feel. So I'm adding a flowchart and I'm connecting everything, too many things.
Okay. And paper 1 and paper 2, what is the difference? Means is there a difference in the strategy?
Paper 1 generally is where we spend 80% of the effort.
Okay.
And 70-80% of the effort, theory heavy, too many things to learn. Paper 2 is like relatively easier to learn. But strategy difference, I feel paper 1 is like more theoretical.
Okay.
Paper 2 is a little more dynamic and like actual policy related, tribal policy related, why the scheme is not working, or why in spite of everything, why tribal development is not happening at the pace we are expecting it or wanting it to.
So this is something you took, whatever coaching you took 3 years back or 4 years back, at least 5 years back.
4 years back.
4 years back. So paper 2, you are saying it is dynamic. Sometimes it is current oriented also, means a little bit, even if a little bit. Then how do you prepare for that? Because you are saying that I only dedicated 20% of my efforts to paper 2.
No, personally I dedicated a little more. I'm saying generally people more dedicate more for paper 1. So I'm saying paper. So what I try to do is like, although it is a little more dynamic, it's not as dynamic as something like PSIR where it is entirely dynamic.
Okay.
So it's like almost, it is still predictable. Like it will revolve around the tribal issues, like tribal schemes or caste issues, societal things. So it's not entirely current. Like direct current question is very unlikely. It is more theoretical or more that you can predict the areas, but it is important that your answer is dynamic, is what I feel. Like that is updated.
Last time, how much marks did you get in anthropology?
So anthropology, last time I got only 260.
260. This time you got 326.
326.
How many times did you revise between prelims result and mains?
Between prelims and mains result, 3 times, 4 times easily.
4 times you revised. What was your actual means? Just tell me, like a child. Means I used to do it. There is no harm in admitting that I used to cram or I used to do this. How much time did you use to give daily between prelims and mains for anthropology? 4 revisions you said?
3-4 revisions. Like the thing is, like first 2 revisions will take almost entire time, but then by that time you will be remembering most of the things. So third revision will take hardly less time. Fourth revision is like very less time. Like you would have shortened the notes also for last minute. So last revision is like entire paper 2 will be having like 20-30 pages, so that you can revise quickly.
Entire
paper 2 short notes in like 30 pages.
So for the paper 2 you had short notes of only 40 pages.
30 max 40 pages towards the end.
Okay, towards the end.
So
you with subsequent revisions you shortened your notes. Okay. So but 30, 40, 50 pages you have to write in the paper itself. What was in those notes?
Like only things which I'll forget, and not full sentences, only words which are needed. Even if like Professor Srinivas, like very important thinker, in my note will be like only Srini. Because it is for me, like huge person, but it is for my consumption. Like I have to revise, so I'll put it only Srini. So my note is like very short.
Analytical part you will not revise again. You don't.
Analytical part. Analytical part also I'll reduce it. Like let's say tribal statistics. I'll have education E this percent, health this percent, IMR this percent. It'll be in one line. So I'm saying we are in, unlike mains where you have to write 50 pages spaced. Here the notes will be crammed, not crammed, like congested. It'll be like too many things in one page. In that way, 30-40 pages. Like there'll be so much of content, but everything will be very, very short.
Okay. And after prelims, how much time did it take to revise it once?
After prelims, first revision took a lot of time. I think if there was like 80 days or 90 days, first revision would have taken at least 30 days for me.
Okay.
Second revision also around 20-25 days.
Okay. So you made sure that you did 4 revisions.
Like third revision happened in like very less time.
Okay.
Fourth revision between like GS and
but you stressed one thing, that my main this pillar was note making. So you didn't write test papers?
Like I did write test papers. 2020, 21 I wrote more. 22 I wrote lesser.
Okay.
This time around very, very less. I don't remember. I think I had not written any one paper.
Okay.
Or maybe very less.
Okay.
Like very, very less. Maybe some essays and some GS, but very, very less.
Okay. Anthropology?
Anthropology, this time nothing.
You didn't write any paper. But you kept on revising. 4 revisions within these prelims and mains this part.
But I was confident about my anthro because 2020 I wrote some tests, like 8-10 tests I did right. That year I got 281 and that was my first serious attempt.
Okay.
So I got 281. So I knew that if I write in this way, it is possible to get somewhere around 280. Above 280 anything, even now I feel there is I was fortunate to get 326. So but 280, like realistically you can get. Anything above 280 you can get. So I was confident if I write it in this way, it's possible to get 280, 285. Okay. Then because I was feeling underconfident between prelims and mains, I was not able to write many answers. I would have written very little.
You were feeling underconfident?
Everyone.
But you're still an IS or IPS officer.
IPS only, but during preparation.
IPS only, yeah.
But you are you are an aspirant while writing. And even if you are an aspirant or whatever you are, you will feel underconfident. Quickly, if you tell me a question, while talking, it's still easier. But even then, because it's a competition ultimately, it's not enough to be good. You have to be better than the other person who's writing it. So you will always feel underconfident.
Okay. And exact sources, if I have to ask you for anthropology, all the books, all the material.
I might forget something, but one I read Vivek Basme sir's book.
Okay.
Then I read, so this time around I added some more topper notes like Mandar Patki sir's notes on socio, cultural anthropology, bio by Narayan Amit. Then even my colleague in IPS, there's one called Melvin Verghese. So he got anthro 300 plus twice. Okay. And I took his paper also just to see if there's something. And his paper, like very little things, but presentation and all, like I like the paper very much. So in that way, even his paper helped. Then, as I said, JSTOR, some research articles, EPW or even newspaper articles. Okay. Then institute notes, little, some value addition. Then, so mostly base book for me was Vivek Basme. That was my most helpful because it's simplified. In one book, I felt confident that I've covered something. Okay. And then it is in question answer format. Okay. Then topper notes. Those are very, very important, most important.
Okay. So these are the all resources that if you can...
That is what I can recall. Then P Nath, I read P Nath for physical. I read DK Bhattacharya for archaeology. These are like base books generally told. I did read that. Okay. Because I didn't want to miss out.
Okay. If I have to ask you, can a student with your resources, can a student studying outside Delhi prepare anthropology by himself or herself?
Absolutely. Many people who are clearing are preparing on their own.
If you have to guide a student, let's say who is 2000 kilometers from here, he cannot afford to have coaching, but he can somehow arrange these notes. If you have to tell me in 2.5 minutes, how will you tell the student that this is the areas you must focus and this is should be your strategy?
Like look at YouTube for topper videos on what are their strategies. Like later ones also see like last 2-3 years many good people, because some people, even if their ranks are a little lower, their strategies might be like better. So look at some topper videos freely available. Like find what are the common things, what are the common books they are referring to, common things they are doing, and then try to do that. Like which books they are referring, which notes, which topper notes they are referring. Like Mandar Patki notes everyone is reading. Like it is very good. So like which topper notes, it's easily available, freely available Telegram. Which topper notes everyone is reading, which books people are referring to, and then how to add case studies, from where they are adding case studies, which ones are good.
No, I'm asking, you need to understand that you yourself got 326 marks.
Yes.
Okay. So you need to shed your humility now. Okay. So tell me, you are now guiding a student. Okay. You are telling him that, like you told me that whatever we have read, when we are entering the exam hall, we must be confident. Now you have to give the same confidence to a child who is 2000 kilometers away from you.
So I think, like as I said, Vivek Basme. So if this is my strategy, I would still read, if I'm giving this attempt or next attempt, I'll still go with Vivek Basme. I'll look at like if I have 1 year, I'll read Pinath and have some own content, because even though Pinath people say they don't read and make their own notes, so I'll read and make own notes. DK Bhattacharya to have a basic understanding, and then read Mandar Patki notes for archaeology and socio. Read Narayan Amit notes for bio. This much I do. I'm like good to go, and then some case studies I can collect from here and there.
JSTOR and
JSTOR.
EPW. And you were
and updating like things from tribal, like let's say new study, like there was some tribal development report 2022. You can get it from government site.
Indian government sites.
Government sites.
Which government site? Any you can
like Ministry of Tribal Affairs. You can get some content. Like don't look into. They are very big PDFs. So if you don't have time, don't look into it. If you have time, like quickly look at like what are the recommendations. Just 2 pages recommendations or some graphs which you can take. Some statistics that you can take. Like don't waste much time on the PDFs. Like first you have to have an idea of what you need to take. Let's say a question on. We have to do 2 things. One is static. One is PYQ. If you have content on every topic that is there in the syllabus and you know how to solve the PYQ of last 10 years, you are good to go. So for that, if you don't have some content, like I found that one question, like comparison of tribes between India, US, New Zealand and Australia. Like compare the tribal policies. I didn't have content. I didn't find content in this thing, like whatever I've mentioned. So for that, I Googled. I found out on my own. Whatever, like it's not that difficult. Just Google it. 3-4 points, major things in New Zealand's tribal policy, Australia's New Zealand policy, tribal policy. In that way, prepare a own note. In somewhere like one question was there, analyze one tribal scheme in detail. Didn't have one question entirely on that. So I went into
any tribal scheme.
Any tribal scheme, but that was like 20-mark question. What if that question comes and I have to attempt? I can't skip that section, like that combination. So then I thought I have to prepare. I went to MOTA, Ministry of Tribal Affairs, some this thing and analysis of this thing. I looked into what all are the dimensions they're hitting. Like it's like key performance indicators. You have to remember the frame and one statistic. So it is like it gives you the status. What is the target? How many? What is the percentage of tribals in India? What is their education status? In 20, everyone quotes 2011 census. If it's better, you can have a more updated one. In that also, if you can have a comparative analysis between like one state in South, like let's say Northeast tribals, tribes in Northeast, tribes in Central India, tribes in South, tribes in islands. So in that way, based on PYQ, get some statistics from the MOTA sites.
Form the framework.
Get updated data from government sites or some newspaper article or from Topper Notes.
Is anthropology really a subject only for science students?
Definitely no. Like I don't know what I am. I'm neither from engineering nor from humanities. I'm coming from design background. And I'm not a proper designer also. So you can go from any background for anthropology. It has a mix of humanities and science.
Science, biology is a lot of biology.
A little bit of genetics, medicine, little bit. Population studies and all.
Fossil studies and all this.
A little bit of that.
So it won't be an hindrance to a person who has not studied biology after 10th class.
Like any optional you pick, what I felt is like interest is most important. Then find out what are the right sources. And after that, there will be at least some portions which you will feel you are not interested in any optional. So that, like once you've selected the optional, once you've decided you're giving it, that you like the entire this thing, then you have to study. Like don't think about, okay, I don't like it, I am finding it difficult. Find out somewhere, like genetics, if I'm finding it difficult, find some YouTube video, understand how it is working. Like somewhere, like you have to do it. You have to do it, decided that you are doing it, then you have to do it. But you can, anybody can do it. It's not a question of whether you can do it. It's only a question of whether you want to do it.
And if you talk about paper management, anthropology paper, did you miss any question?
No, I never. Like usually I don't miss questions. Even if I have absolutely zero idea, somehow I'll try to attempt the question.
You always attempted every question?
In GS optional.
You didn't feel like that there is some topic which I have read in detail, so I would dedicate more time to it?
Like I didn't think like that, but while writing, I might have given some time for some questions more. Like it's humanly impossible to equally divide the thing. So I might have done that. But questions which I didn't know also, I would have given at least somewhat time, similar time to what I would have given to any other question.
Okay, means even the questions you didn't know?
Like somewhat. Like let's say it's a 10 marker, it's a 7-minute question. Even if I didn't know, I would have given 4-5 minutes.
4-5 minutes you gave even if you didn't know about it?
Even if I didn't. If I attempted, because I attempted everything.
From where did you start your paper? From back or from 10 markers?
10 markers.
Always started with 10 markers.
Like I didn't like to think too much. So I started with the starting question.
No, when you got the paper, optional paper, you had to choose the 5 questions from it. So what was your exact strategy? Means in first 5 minutes you gave first 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 2 minutes. How did you do it?
Like in first 2 minutes itself, we'll like anyway that 10 marker questions 1 and 5 you have to do. 1 and 4 or 1 and 5. That you have to do. So I'll start with then if you quickly see the combination of questions, one question or two questions in some combinations will be like very, very difficult. So it's easy to eliminate.
Okay.
So in that way I'll eliminate one, then there'll be two combinations. In that I'll see 20 marker like 3 questions, 2 if I'm knowing very well, and 1 somewhat I can manage. And in the other combination I know 2 I can only manage and 1 not so much. Then I'll pick up the like.
So in your last attempt also there were questions which you felt that
every combination there'll be 1 question or 2 questions which I'll feel I'm not entirely sure. I can manage, I can come up with an answer, but I'm not like I knew the answer.
Okay, the paper management was always like that. You completed the paper, never missed the paper in 4 attempts.
No.
Okay, that was the case with the GS also?
GS also. Like GS in first 2 attempts, because I was not so good, like I didn't attempt many papers. Every time I will find like first 2 attempts, GS1 I was unable to complete. But that was only because of that. After that, by that time, after GS1 is over, okay, my speed is on track. Then GS2, everything I used to complete. Last 2 attempts, I've been like attempting everything.
Okay. In GS general studies, what was your answer writing strategy exactly?
So answer writing strategy, basically again, notes most important, frames most important. Frames were different for every topic in GS 1, 2, 3, 4.
You had frames for
everything.
Even in GS 1, 2, 3, 4, there are different subjects. Like even in paper
history separate frame, geography separate frame, society separate, art and culture separate. Like let's say art and culture. Based on PYQ, I felt architecture, literature, or sculpture is more likely to be asked, or Buddhism. I had a frame for architecture. If architecture question is asked, again, architecture was easy for me. But let's say literature, prose poetry, or elements borrowed, elements indigenous. Like in that, some frames, what all points I have to hit, that I'll try to make a frame. Let's say history. History, I've decided, like I thought you should hit on causes, consequences, before event, after event, then goal, ideology, and leader and the event, like things like what all you have to hit in history.
Okay. Contemporary relevance.
You can connect it with contemporary today's world towards the conclusion.
Okay.
Like let's say civil service can connect with the Cornwallis to Mission Karmyogi.
Okay.
Like how, like
in history you're saying?
History.
Okay.
Let's say geography. In geography, I'll remember that I have to hit physical geography and human geography, even if it is a physical geography question.
Okay.
And then in physical geography also, even if it is a question on oceanography, everything is connected, coupled. Ocean, atmosphere, everything is coupled. So atmosphere has to be hit. Or this even soil, rock, stability, geomorphology also has to be hit.
Okay.
Or like everything is connected. So what all are pertinent to the question, I'll hit. So that frames will be there based on the syllabus or based on PYQ.
Okay.
Society, I tried to take content or frames from Anthro, little bit.
Okay.
And then somewhere like things like on identity, on urbanization, modernization. So there are some themes which are central to society, like globalization, modernization, urbanization, impact on vulnerable sections, women, change. Like in that way, I try to make like 10-15 dimensions which are like very important in society. That you can get from, I try to take a book from Kindle, like randomly, Kindle book on sociology or something. What all were the headings, index. Randomly, I took the index, I got some points. I'm not saying that is important, but I'm just saying these are some repeated themes. Women, modernization, urbanization, like that. In that way, I made like 10 caste. In India, caste is very important. Or like let's say religion. These are things which are very important to sociology, to society. Change. So those were like dimensions which I have to hit in society. I'll remember the frame. Then I'll have introduction, conclusion based on the topic.
Okay. In GS2 polity part, what were your we have been hearing this word again and again, hitting areas, areas which you have to hit. What were those areas in GS2?
GS2, I felt like everyone's been talking about court cases. I still feel case laws, judgments are extremely important.
Okay.
So I used to, like initially I had some case studies, cases from like Anandip Durushetty sir had compiled list of like 20 most important. Then on top of that, another topper, he had added some like 50, 60 cases. Then based on PYQ, I added my own. So I had like 100, 200 cases. But every case I'll have only one line. Like let's say environment, I had like 5 cases. Something like MC Mehta case is there.
Goa Foundation case.
That foundation case. Now I'm not able to remember. Like there is one from Kerala also. Godavarman Thirumalpad case. Thirumalpad case. Environmental rule of law. So case and main point, one line. Case and the point only in one line. In that way, in 2-3 pages, I have like 200 cases. Women, I have 5 cases. Like some cases I took from US and UK because the question was asked. Like 10 important US cases, if I Google it or Copilot, I ask, I'll get like Marbury versus Madison, Roe versus Wade, Bollinger versus this thing, Illinois versus some like important ones.
So you mentioned cases
US
from
cases
US
also. Because some questions were asked, like rule of law compared between India and US,
Yes.
or UK judiciary, Indian judiciary. A general point from Lakshmikant will be like, okay, parliamentary supremacy, this supremacy. I felt that question has already come. So I have to have some specific points. Again, last 10-year PYQ, we have to be very well versed. So I prepared a little notes, like Gina Miller cases, like Boris Johnson proroguing, or some 2-3 famous cases, 2 Gina Miller cases, like that was related to UK. EU also I added one. Like just a little bit of validation, not much of effort.
Innovation,
like little bit of extra effort, not much.
And apart from court cases?
I took up opinions, or judges' opinion, experts' opinion, like Upendra Bakshi, like columns, Hindu columns, Indian Express columns, live law, something like anything. So I tried to read both left and right articles. Like just to have counter views. And in that way, I could even remember like counter arguments. Like even expert opinions, you'll have leftist opinions and rightist opinions. So I try to read both. And then I'll have 4, if a question comes, I can have 4, one among the 2. Against I'll have another 2. I'll not quote left, right, but I'll know. Easier to remember.
And there is this part in GS2 which relates to governance and this SSGs and NGOs.
Yes.
Okay. So this is considered a relatively static syllabus because a lot of questions are repeated.
Yes.
So how did you make your answers attractive to the examiner in this part of the syllabus?
So again, committee recommendations. So the ending was always solutions. Committee recommendations, if you Google and find 3 specific points from every committee, important one. Like NGO, we have Vijay Kumar committee. So that committee generally people quote, but people don't have enough points to what that committee said. People mostly remember it as Vijay Kumar committee. But conclusion, it's always important to have some solutions. Just Google it. Important, like if you have like 50 committees, like one line, 3 points, 3 specific points. What they said about NGOs. Like let's say cooperatives. There is like, I don't remember now, like there were like committee recommendations. So in that Vaidyanathan committee or something, if it's governance, Damodaran committee on governance. Specifically, I'll take 3-4 points.
Was, I think, with the local panchayats.
In general, related to decentralization and governance in general also. So in that way, related to banking, related to microfinance, financial inclusion. So in that way, they'll have solutions. So the same for NGOs, governance. So that also was something different. And some diagram, like let's say SHG. So there's that Panchasutra model or something, like enough savings, enough discussion, enough this thing. So that in that way, presentation improves. And you have 5 dimensions. If you don't use it as a diagram, you know 5 dimensions to hit if something comes from that area. Then committee recommendations also, if you look at the index or final recommendations, you will have points, like 5 to 10 pointers which need to be hit. And then some specifics, like examples of SHGs, examples of cooperatives. Governance also, too many examples. Like Kerala, in that also from different parts of India. From Kerala, this thing, Cyberdome. From someplace else, another one. Like let's say Spandana app or something like Delhi has a lot of innovative these things. UP, Maharashtra, from different areas, Odisha. And that's different example, like case study type.
Okay, now coming to this IR part, IR is something that is not at all related to your optional. Okay, so how did you tackle this part? And what special you did in your answers or notes?
So IR also, I enjoyed IR a lot because initially when I started preparation, I had all 3 services in mind. IAS, IFS and IPS. Like I had, although I had a little more interest because more diversity, I wanted to have different experience. But I was very fascinated. So IR, I enjoyed reading. Like policing also, I had my interest in IPS also. So IR specifically, coming to the question, mostly current. So there'll be some areas, neighborhood, this thing. I'll have some content, like some comments by ministers, former diplomats, Shiv Shankar Menon sir, or like famous people. And that I'll try to reduce it into diagrams. Like there's one diagram which says, Shiv Shankar Menon sir says that the foreign policy behavior of any state depends on three factors: history, their geography. Again, it depends you economics, you everything, and then the local politics, domestic politics. Anything like domestic politics influences the foreign policy. So these three areas, I'll make it into a diagram, or I'll try to hit it. I'll quote the person in columns. Like there is C. Raja sir, he writes very
Indian
beautiful
Express,
Indian Express.
Raja Mandal.
Raja Mandal. So you will get some quotes or some good content from there.
So you that is mostly said for PSI or optional students, but you use.
I use thinkers in GS also.
GS also.
Because it's there in Indian newspaper, Hindu or Indian Express.
Okay. And GS3, coming to GS3, this science and technology part, how did you manage it? Means, did you make diagrams or did you, because it is very factual.
Science and technology, what I try to do. So my entire GS, I believe everything comes from mains, comes from either PYQ or static syllabus area or current. Current in science and tech and environment or things like that. Mostly it was current from this thing for mains. So I used to prepare 10 or 20 most important topics. Most people do that. Most people who clear do that. So like last year, Chandrayaan was like very much expected. Like even though it's difficult to pinpoint that Chandrayaan will come, Chandrayaan was amongst the 10 or 20 topics that you're preparing. So look, if you're following the newspaper, you will understand which area is like very important for India. Like India's space journey was there in news for like a whole month or something. And it's important because everything, a lot of developments is happening. It's important for India's growth, India 2047. In that way, it was there in the first page. Relative significance of the news is huge. So if you follow the newspaper, you'll understand which is more important. And then in that way, 10-20 topics like Chandrayaan, like US Artemis mission or something. In that way, 10 hot topics, and then I'll prepare a note on that. Mostly I depend. And then if for that 10 topics, I'll have specifics. Like data or some diagram. And some I did try to add some general diagrams related to space, like India space industry. Like this time also I added. I don't know if it worked or not. Like India's Chandrayaan 2 budget, comparing it with last Chandrayaan budget, C2, C3, and then C2 and Chandrayaan budget, and then that movie Interstellar budget. That was in like one graph. Interstellar is above. The budget of that is everyone knows. But I made it into a graph. Try to use it. Something innovative. Although it is like Interstellar, maybe there's a little bit of.
So this in internal security, environment, disaster management. These are including science and tech. These are some topics which are really scoring if you can go prepared with the content beforehand. So how many topics exactly you prepared for internal security?
Like I would have prepared for 20, revised for 10.
Prepared 20, revised 10.
Like internal security more so based on syllabus areas.
So your basic strategy was that you found 20 topics which you believe that they are going to be really important. Apart from
for that, I'll make good notes. While revising third time, I'll find that 10 are most important. If I have less time, I'll focus only on those 10.
Okay.
And most important are like PYQ. And syllabus mein whatever they specifically said, like neighboring, like forces. So I prepared note, like everybody
prepares.
How
many forces did you prepare?
All forces, like all CAPFs. Even intelligence bodies, raw IB, like little content, not too much, but little content because it is there. It is there in the syllabus means you have to prepare. You are making a mistake by not preparing. So
mandate of security forces topic. Topics mandate of security forces.
Mandate. So I'll look in what is the duties, some recent things why they were in news recently, some concerns if somebody has expressed, some comparison with some other country.
Into the micro.
A little bit of analysis.
Means in the syllabus you went means not only the lines you went into each and every topic, and within that you prepared notes for every subtopic. Like mandate of the security forces, you prepared all the
army, armed forces, CAPF, intel bodies,
some rifles, everything.
But again, note finally once I make it into a note, it will be like 2 pages only. Entire thing.
So you condensed everything, so that you can revise. So this also you revised in the before the mains. Everything you revised before the mains.
Like how much well I revised, I don't know, but I did revise.
You revised. You had notes for everything.
Notes for everything. By this time, everything for everything.
So what was your exact means? Let's say you have to prepare notes on left-wing extremism. In 2 minutes, you have to tell me that tell a student that this is how I used to prepare.
Like what is the status? Introduction, conclusion, first structure. Introduction.
So from where did you take it?
Just Google it. status of left-wing extremism, you'll have government PDF or institute PDF. I mean, institute, some content, some good institutes will also have some content.
You used to write
like my focus was like, I have one book for GS1, 2, 3, 4 books. So 2 pages for every topic in the syllabus. And if there are some PYQ questions which are outside, like you feel it is outside, then 1 or 2 pages for that PYQ also. In that, I'll have introduction, conclusion, 2-3 types. Introductions, conclusions, then statistics, status, then what are the like supporting arguments or good things, concerns, issues, steps taken, steps needed. Steps needed might include case studies or a committee recommendation.
You prepared all these notes by yourself. Means you had a framework in mind and you prepared 2-page notes for every part of the syllabus. So this is how a new starting student should prepare notes.
I think that's a good enough strategy.
That's a good 2-page note for all the parts in the syllabus plus PYQs.
In that also, my idea was like introduction, body, conclusion. In body, statistics, quotes, reports, laws, examples, diagrams.
You remembered all the introductions.
It's impossible to remember everything, but if you revise like multiple times, at least one of the 3 introductions that you made, you'll at least remember one of those. And if you don't remember one, it's still okay. The thing is, like, we are preparing for the worst because on the exam date in the exam hall, I have always felt that we are like dumb people. It's very difficult to recall. Like whatever is there in the back of the mind, that is very easy to recall. If you remember the structure, it's very easy to put the points into the structure. If you have revised it multiple times, it's very easy. And I have not, unfortunately, written many tests. So I mostly focus on notes. So I have to revise more. So in that way, I am like, in the exam hall, it's autopilot mode. I am not smart in the exam hall. So I have to revise, I have to make structures. I have to prepare notes in such a way that I don't remember anything in the exam hall.
And economics, but economics is this economy, not economics. Economics, I think there are 1 or 2 questions, basic economics. Indian economy and agriculture, it is quite dynamic. So in this also you had well-prepared notes.
Like again, syllabus is detailed, like marketing, this thing. Every topic, if you put 2 pages, introduction and all, you can either get from people like Ashok Gulati, agricultural scientist, here as in Indian Express. You can get it from Ashok Dalwai's committee recommendations. Like it has 5 PDFs, but if you just read the recommendations or statistics or something, index and all that, you get a lot, like whatever is enough for 250 words, 150 words, extra content, diagrams, everything you get from that PDF. You don't have to read the 200, 400 pages, just scan through. Or at least the recommendations.
And economics parts also, you prepared the whole
that structure, status, good thing, bad thing, examples, everything.
You had a framework in mind. Based on that, you kept on searching the relevant sources, and after that kept on revising. Now coming to this ethics paper 4, what was your strategy, or what was a note making strategy actually in this?
So my ethics notes, finally, like last 2 attempts, I've compressed everything, like 30-page notes. Enough.
Only 30 pages?
Only 30 pages. And ethics, I think even 30 pages more. Like 15 pages are good enough. Again, structure, I fell back to structures. I had my basic structure is like syllabus only. Whatever theory question comes, I think the dimensions are there already in the syllabus. Like what are the causes or determinants? What is the role, consequences? What is the role of family, or society, like depending on the question, role of family, role of government, role of society, role of education. What is attitude? Like attitude, how can you connect it with attitude? Cognitive part, behavioral part, something. What is the connection with aptitude? Civil service values, Nolan Committee, second ARC, Niti Aayog, or something like probity, corruption, workplace. Syllabus is the dimensions. 10 pointers, you get it from the syllabus. And then another basic structure that I use is like meaning, support it, refute it, comparison, relevance. Start.
Please repeat.
Meaning, support, refute, compare, relevance.
What is this?
Like any theory question. What is the meaning? You start with what do you understand, or thinker's opinion on that. Then you give points on supporting the thing. Like let's say you can't step into the same river twice. So you give thinker's theories or something supporting that. Then you refute it. No, you can probably. Something like, because in ethics you need multiple dimensions, multiple points. You have to look at it from multiple sides. So counter argument is always good. And then compare it with some other idea if possible. Let's say individual to society, society to governance, something like that. And then relevance, governance relevance, ideally.
Did you use any quotes, examples?
Quotes, examples, yes. Quotes, examples, case studies. Case studies in the life, even, I mean, it's like innovating. Everyone uses it. Quotes, examples, diagrams. I try to add something, things from architecture, things like design thinking. Like I wanted extra diagrams, extra this thing, frameworks.
You made diagrams in ethics paper also.
Even in case studies.
Even in case studies, you made diagrams. What kind of diagrams?
So in case studies, I felt the basic thing is like same for everything. Everyone writes the same thing, almost everyone. It's like who are the stakeholders? What are the values at stake?
Ethical concerns,
ethical options, alternatives, pros, cons, final course of action. That is the same. You have to hit it. You don't know whether if you skip it, it's problematic. So that is there. But the way I presented it, I tried sometimes design thinking. There's this thing, like one diagram which says, first you empathize with the stakeholders, then you define the problem well, then you look at the options, arrive at the option, then feedback. Like continuous loop. There's a diagram. First convergent thinking, divergent thinking, then convergent thinking, again convergent, divergent. Like it's a diagram. So that diagrammatic representation of whatever is already there. Design
thinking, divergent.
Like you have to empathize. That's like divergent thinking. You have to open yourselves to this thing, stakeholders. Then you have to define it. It's like convergent thinking. Make it simple. Then you have to look at alternatives. Again, divergent thinking. Then you have to arrive at an option based on which is best possible scenario. Again, convergent thinking. Then final course of action. That's also part of that. Convergent, divergent. Something like systems theory. Like in that, so there are some, in every issue, every problem, even, so there are some things like there are events where you have to react to the events. Then you have some paths.
Elements, paths, events, feedback.
So paths, you have to design the paths. It's like mains answer writing. You identify what paths. Then there are patterns. So that you have to identify. So again, that also sometimes in some case studies, you can use that frame with the diagram. You can, the things that you have to do, you can put it into the systems theory or design thinking or theory of change model. Some diagram, different diagram for every different case study. Just that I don't know if that is necessary, but I wanted my answer to stand out. Slightly at least.
And what were your exact sources for ethics?
Ethics, again, I did read some books in the market, but mostly I Googled a lot. Like one book by Mudit Jain. Mudit Jain sir, I read that. Other than that, mostly, finally, most of my notes are like Google from different places. Like I took literature references. Like even Shakespeare. Like I don't know much of Shakespeare content, but I know Othello is related to jealousy. I know this Macbeth is related to this. I know King Lear.
First one.
Othello.
Othello is related
to jealousy. So I just need that to make a point. I know a little bit, but I might not remember everything.
Next one.
Let's say Macbeth.
Is related to?
Like whatever. Like you find a main emotion. King Lear. Like you can't whatever. Let's say like two daughters. Like whatever you find initially as convincing might not be actually this thing. So like depending on the question, if you remember this, you can connect it. Let's take Animal Farm. You have a lot of things which you can connect. George Orwell. You can have even Dostoevsky. I mean, I'm not saying like it sounds fancy. I'm saying literature references like something new or something like cricket. Sports everyone uses, but a little more. Like even female sports, women's sports, women's cricket, Shefali Verma, or like anything. Like things like Messi. Messi says, it took me 17 years to become an overnight success. Like it motivates you on the one hand, and it's good to quote. Something like the Mamba routine in basketball. Like how intensity is important. Something like that.
Perseverance.
All that. So cricket, sports, movies, songs, poetry, literature.
Can be used there.
Everything can be used. Whatever motivates you. Like which book motivates you? Mythology.
Scientists, inventors, personalities.
Mythology, Indian mythology, Greek mythology, Roman mythology.
Ramayana, Mahabharata.
Greek characters like Prometheus. Oppenheimer was compared to Prometheus. Like people say humans, like there's this famous thing by Albert Camus. He says human life can be compared to a character called Sisyphus. Like you are trying to push a rock. Every day it comes back. Again, you are pushing the rock. Like meaningless. Life is meaningless, or you're doing a lot of meaningless work. And then there are other characters. So you can make a comparison. Like comparison between Sisyphus and Prometheus. Or Sisyphus and Hercules. Like it's fun to read, and it's fun to use.
One example from Indian mythology also like that.
Indian mythology like Duryodhana or Karna or anyone like Arjuna what courage or focus or everything, righteousness Yudhishthira. And like many, even Vidura Niti, like anything, like let's say even Ramayana also, and especially characters which are not very known, because the famous characters everyone will quote, but like some characters which are known but people don't quote often, if you can quote. Like Devdutt Patnaik books offer like interesting content, but it's like too much for preparation. If you just random, like if you are a reader or something, if you are reading randomly or see videos, you can quote whatever is there. Essay, ethics, interview. Like there's a quote in Dead Poets Society movie. It says that like we don't read poetry because like we read poetry because we are members of the human race. We like things like poetry, emotion, romance. Like ultimately, whatever said and learned, ethics, essay, interview is where like your emotions play a role. You have to impress the person. In GS3 agriculture, if a question comes, I can't play with poetry, but in essay I can, ethics I can, interview also. Even if I don't remember the statistics, if I have some emotional this thing, I can still impress. Is what I feel.
No, you have given me a really great podium now to jump to essay, because seriously I was mesmerized by your flow of the kind of examples you gave, and the seriously you integrated a lot of things from Greek mythology to Indian mythology, then the books, the literature part.
Like it might seem huge, but the thing is, like for the last 3-4 years,
it is not huge. It is actually organic. The world is not. Things become huge when they are inorganic. Something is dumped over you. But when I say I was mesmerized, that means I was really interested in you, in your talk.
Thank you.
So if you could make ethics answers so interactive and of such high quality, so what did you do with essay? Seriously, I don't want to ask any question. I just want to listen to you.
Essay, as I said, I decided that my essay will not be just based on, there are some frames people use. Pestle, political, economic, social, like SDG. Every 17 SDG can be one paragraph. Or something like GS, every syllabus area one. So I did have that in mind, but I didn't restrict it to that. So I want there was one topper who had like 150 or something. He said that you should have some interesting content, pop references, movies, songs, poetry, literature, cricket, whatever interests you. So I decided that my notes will be only mine.
Okay.
So I prepared on literature, prepared on mythology, prepared on sports, cricket. That is my favorite sport. Things like that. Like even things like architecture.
Any famous example from cricket?
Cricket, so there are multiple. Like every character. So my favorite batsman is Sachin Tendulkar, Captain MS Dhoni. So MS Dhoni has some favorite famous quotes. Like he says the process is more important than the result. It's a very, very strong statement. Like there is a lot of depth in that.
Sachin or Dhoni?
Sachin or Dhoni, I will not go into that. So personally, I am a Sachin fan. But as a captain, there's nothing like Dhoni.
Okay.
So I started off seeing Sachin. As a batsman, Sachin for me was like too much initially. I started playing. Initially, I wanted to be a cricketer.
If I give you a small test right now on the spot, if you have to use an example from Sachin's life, you will have to put your mind to it, and you have to use in ethics. Let's say attitude. Can you recall anything from Sachin's life?
Sachin played the Kenya match and scored a century after the death of his father. So that is integrity.
No, that is the example from the. That is integrity also. That is from role of family.
Role of family also.
I will give you a hint.
Integrity is there.
There was somebody.
Steve Buckner.
No.
Wrong decisions.
No. We are focusing on Sachin because we know why we are focusing on, because
you are also a Sachin fan.
Dead Sachin fan. So I will give an example. There was somebody like Sachin back in the 90s with the same coach. Can we use it in the attitude example in ethics?
I don't like, comparisons are good, but I don't I take like Indian and a foreigner.
Okay.
Like I compare Sachin and Ponting. Like personally, I feel somewhere Sachin also says like his parents used to tell him like your behavior is more important than the sport. And Sachin embodied the sport a lot. Like at some point, more than winning, Australian cricket team, it's like winning. Like whatever you do, whatever you lie, you do anything. Ruthlessness, winning, that is important somewhere. But personally, like ethics of the game is more important. Like for Sachin,
game is bigger than
the individual. Any day game is important. Game is more bigger. And some values which you think are very important, that is bigger than the game, bigger than winning. So in that way, for me, Sachin versus Ponting is like heavily loaded towards Sachin. And even I feel Sachin, Dhoni are like very important, very famous, they touch everyone because they are also very humble. They don't focus on themselves more. You win a trophy, you won't see Dhoni in the like main this thing. Dhoni will hand over the trophy and then he'll be in the background. That is, and Indians generally like people who are like that. You want performance, you want humility also.
Okay, and coming back to essay, apart from this cricketers literature, what was your basic structure? Because you said that pastel I didn't want to use.
No, I did use, but didn't restrict myself to those frameworks. Then I made like so basic
sources. What were your basic sources for essay?
Like again, some topper notes, some books I referred, but mostly own content. And then I saw some PYQs. Yes, I looked into PYQs, and then I looked into topper essays. And then tried to find out how they connected. Like there'll be some anchor statement between every paragraph, between every page, echoing introduction and conclusion. So this time, if I can quote, I've been quoting
echoing introduction conclusion. Means you started from the introduction, you left suspense, and then you completed in the conclusion. So you, what was your introduction like? It was an anecdote or something?
So this time I remember I had prepared some songs. I had prepared. So there's one song by Billy Joel. This time I say I used that.
Okay.
So the song is like, "We didn't start the fire." So he quotes World War II, this thing, negative events in history. And then he says, "We didn't start the fire, it was always burning."
Okay.
And then I tried to use that. So I started that with introduction, question on social justice, something was there. In the conclusion, I quoted positive events. And then I said, "We didn't start the fire, but we sure tried to fight it." So it's echoing. It's using pop reference. And in that quoting the positive events, I can add a lot of examples which I missed in the body.
Which essays did you?
I don't remember exact topic. Something related to social justice and something related to intuition, and something is both are needed.
Okay.
There I use a thought experiment, marshmallow experiment.
And if you have to give a strategy about how to tackle philosophical essays, so what means? How much time would you give to brainstorming and how much time to writing? What would be your basic framework?
So I, again, like nothing, no clear-cut formula, I believe. But I think like 10-15 minutes you brainstorm. And then like first, like decide which one you are more comfortable, which ones you're getting more points. Like you need to have 20-25 paragraphs, 20-25 new ideas, 20-25 dimensions. So if you get like 5-10 about one thing.
You made analytical points your basis for 25 paragraphs or examples?
Like there'll be 3 sentences or 4 sentences. First, starting with the argument, what it leads to, or what are the new insights
then
from that,
substantiating
it with an example or something, and then an anchor statement.
You repeated it in every...
everything, but the argument is different.
Okay. Every time argument is different. Now you move to next this paragraph. How did you connect both?
Some anchor statement, not in everywhere.
Okay.
Like some, because somewhere it has to be organic also. Like everywhere you don't have to say after this we are talking about this, or leading one from another.
What were the exact connectors, if I have to say 5 connectors?
Connectors, like some like consequently. Or furthermore, like that. Nevertheless, like usual ones.
Economically, politically,
like not literally like that. I didn't want to sound like
pastel.
But somewhere, like let's say we are talking about local self-government. And I've quoted Kerala, or I've quoted in something, I've quoted Delhi. The next thing I can go to Delhi from another dimension, an argument, but connected to Delhi. Or let's say I'm talking about policing, and in the next thing I'm talking about rights or this thing. Like organically somewhere, if I can connect it, then that is good. And not everywhere. I can also, in sometimes the surprises are also good. Like in between, I can add 2 lines of a quote in between a page. Like essay is something which should look different, is what I feel. You don't have to exactly for like paragraphs or headings. If headings come to your mind, you can use headings. If a quote comes to your mind, you can use a quote. Shairi, anything.
How many quotes did you use? You start
like whatever came to my mind. Like but there were like references, now, examples.
When you are moving towards the end of the essay, how did you taper off? Means
I did try to summarize.
No, did you start providing solutions from 3 pages, penultimate pages? Three,
yes,
4
like
penultimate.
solutions are way forward. Like if you are trying
4
to,
pages.
4 pages. If it's 12 pages, initially like peeling in an onion, looking at it from different dimensions. What are the insights? Then what could be done?
Okay.
That also from different standpoints.
So you started
4 pages easy.
So after 7.5 pages, you started giving positive points or being the way forward.
Positive points, way forward.
And in the
that
end,
also I would have divided like from the point of like from like let's say some frame like Charlie Munger. He talks about this thing, our circle of competence, circle of dignity. So some like frames you can get if you're reading books, you'll get some frames. Or like self-help books and all, they have a lot of frames. Like point of perception, from the point of action, from the point of this thing.
No, there is one thing in essays which a lot of students. Personally, I believe that there are a lot of deserving students.
Yes.
It depends on the day of your performance. Like you said, execution. Sometimes people fear that they have not prepared well. And what happens in essay especially, and the reason for such low marks is that the abruptness. That's why I was asking you so specifically about the connectors. So that smooth flow, because content, definitely there are people who can write better content.
Yes.
But thing is, making it organic, making it flawless, means giving it a very good flow. Means what would be your suggestion?
See, I am also not that, like I've been getting 120s every time, but I've enjoyed the process. So initially what I tried, like connecting, I think is not that much of an issue. Like you have a basic structure, like you talk about starting and conclusion, one page. You have to start with something fancy. Like they say, introduction is like power play. So you have to hit well, you have to open well, maintain this thing. And conclusion is like Usain Bolt says, I like there are better starters, but I finished strong. Even if you started not so well, if you finish it well, it's good enough. So introduction, conclusion is very, very important. Body, it's like what all dimensions can you think about? And then from different perspectives, it can be stakeholder wise, region wise, topic wise. If nothing comes to your mind, even SDG gives you a lot of dimensions.
No, SDG isn't.
It's often repeated. But I would say like, so there's a core idea. What are the different perspectives on that idea? Let's say you can't step into the same river twice. If it comes as an essay topic. So I'll start with a fancy this thing, some story or some poetry or something.
No anecdotes.
Anecdote also.
Okay.
Anecdote or some thought experiment, asking questions. And then I'll say, okay, this could be one thing.
Okay, now when you have started with the anecdote, will you, in the next part, will you be explaining the whatever you understood from the topic? How many paragraphs?
1, 2, 3. Like then I'll, like my idea, like after the introduction page and one or two paragraphs, you should then try to hit many dimensions. Okay. Like look at it from something.
No, we are talking about after the anecdote, the 3 paragraphs where you are giving an analytical viewpoint, where you are saying that, telling the examiner that this is what I have understood.
Anecdote, I'll reduce it in 1 paragraph. Only 1 paragraph. Next paragraph, I'll write the insights. Then next paragraph is like another dimension. Okay. Like every paragraph is different new argument or new dimension. Okay. Supporting it 4, 5 in from 4, 5 standpoints. Having counter arguments or alternatives or some case studies in between, some literature, movie, quotes or something. And then what can be done. That again from different standpoints, from different countries, different even panchayat level examples, anything. Okay. The sources were same, like the ethics. Like I combined ethics and GS2 together because I felt GS2 content can be used in ethics, constitution, IR, and then ethics and essay I combined. Ethics content and
but from this Google you can get examples, but those analytical points, those depth points, where did you get?
Like in which area?
Means let's say we are writing the essay and after the anecdote we have to explain the topic, how we understood it, and you have to give, let's say, 4 dimensions to it. So that I can either come from practice by PYQs, or that can either come from reading some books where people or the author has tried to break the topic into different parts. So did you use any specific books, or did you use any book, read any articles which you used?
Like nothing specifically like that, but philosophy is, as I said, in Kindle I used to read some books, like download some books, Kindle Unlimited, you get a lot of books. I'll just read the index. Some books I'll read fully.
Means that's what I'm trying.
That will give a lot of structures, but I don't think that is inevitable. But I did try that. I did try some books read some books, then read only the index from some books. There, even the index and subheadings will give you some frames. Like if it is philosophy, they'll talk about which all areas, which all theories, which all thinkers. So in that way, you get different dimensions. If nothing comes, I'll talk about this from existentialism, from this another theory, from this literature. So in that way, yes, I did try from literature, philosophy, from different these things.
Okay. And when you are concluding, what was the length of your conclusion means, and how did you actually switch to conclusion? What were your connecting sentence with, that doesn't make it abrupt? That and it like you said that it echoes from the introduction.
What like conclusion after solution. So we'll have 3-4 pages about way forward or solutions, and then towards the end we'll talk about why the like that statement is important. What are the key insights? Summarizing the key insights again in one para. Summarizing is like very less important because nothing new is there. So you make it into one para, summarize it. What more can you understand, or something like current relevance? And then I'll echo because ending should be again on a high. Summarizing is there, but just summarizing as the conclusion, I don't feel is very good. So at least a quote towards the end of the summary. Ideally, something like poetry, echoing the thing, echoing the story, echoing the anecdote. Or once I use the thought experiment, and then marshmallow experiment. So in the conclusion, I'll connect it to that thought experiment. Or something like, let's say in the future, let's say this is 2047. Do you think this is what has to be done? Like something fancy.
I think we have gained a lot of perspective. Seriously, Sidharth, it was a long podcast or talk with you, but the kind of experiences that you have shared, I think that will go a long way in providing insights into the mains answer writing, mains note making, and actual execution in the exam.
Like I feel a lot of toppers, like I have taken content from many like very interesting toppers. So there's a Telegram page called Hardworking Humans.
Okay.
So he's an IS officer of 20, like senior. His content frames were very useful. There were like many topper notes have actually contributed, and I just try to build upon that.
Okay.
So you don't have to start from zero. Look at the Telegram notes, topper content, topper notes or something, and then build on whatever they have built. And then make it a little your own, be original.
Okay. So you have made your notes in this
notebook. I had one book for each GS.
Okay. So have you created a soft copy or anything?
Soft copy also sometimes.
No. Means those written notes have you scanned or something?
Yes, like mobile photo I've taken. Some I have.
You have not scanned your complete notes? Because I think not just the notes, the content part, the hard-hitting areas or the areas, the framework you are talking about, if students can have access to that, because what I have seen is that the kind of humility you have again and again, despite being the rank 4, you have again and again, reiterated their names, repeated their names. So I would personally request you if you could take out some time and provide notes to the students. Okay.
So in there's one channel like that's run by my colleague in Indian Police Service.
Okay.
In Telegram. Okay. I think he's called by Captain Jack Sparrow. He's famous in Telegram and all. So he runs a Telegram channel, and in that I've shared my notes from GS4 ethics, GS1 or 2, and some people who have messaged me, I've shared my anthro also, but I haven't scanned properly, exhaustively, but I'll do. Okay. So what we will do is, once you scan, we will try to provide those notes to students, because 26 marks is something that is not achievable in this year in many optionals, because most of the optionals tapered at around 310. So getting an insight into kind of note making that you did, plus the content and the framework, I think that would be really beneficial. So this would be all from my side, and I seriously believe that my part, means the aim of this podcast or this talk was to give students an insight into how a rank 4, an all India rank 4 IAS officer, not only a rank 4, a person who has scored rank 4 time ranks consecutively, how that person thinks, how that person attempts each paper, and what kind of attitude that person has. So that is the aim of that was the aim of this podcast, which I wanted to share with all of you. And I would again like to thank Sidharth. And Sidharth, it was really a pleasure to have you with us today. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.